I did very little journalism at university, which is, at the moment we interview lots of people for graduate training jobs, and the bar is incredibly high. So many of them done incredible amounts at university. And then I look back at myself and I did hardly anything involving journalism at university. But before I went, I'd been to Africa for a year, and it was then called, the country I was in was called Southwest Africa. It was governed by South Africa, and it was an apartheid regime there with bells. And I was part of a group of anti-apartheid activists in Windhoek. And the people I was with got expelled from the country, and one of them was the BBC's Africa Service stringer. So he said, well, I'm being chucked out here, you can have the stringership. And he handed it to me, and I started broadcasting to the BBC with zero, I was only 19, zero experience, zero knowledge, and I was utterly hopeless at it. But every month a check came from the BBC, and I thought, hey, this is a nice way of making a living. You can talk about this country, and this is fun, and you get paid for it. So when I left university, I applied for Reuters training scheme and got on that, and from there I joined the Times after about a couple of years. So in the first few months I was kind of overwhelmed by the size of the task, but gradually got to grips with it. The paper was structurally pretty sound. We didn't have to change too much. We were selling over 1 million in those days, and we managed to grow circulation up to about 1.2 million, which was quite an achievement, even to 1.3 million some months. This was in the sort of late 90s, which was a great time for newspaper journalism. There was still growth, and then of course things began to turn with the internet and the turn of the millennium, and it got a lot tougher. But it was a great experience. I think some of the things the paper did really well, it was under the major government, a lot of that, and it was a tired government. It was quite lucky to be re-elected, for the Tories to be re-elected in '92, and they really weren't up to it. They'd been in power too long, and as a newspaper, we ran riot with them actually, with sleaze, with corruption, low-level corruption. And the paper played a key part in that. Cash for questions, the stories about MPs prepared to take money for answering parliamentary questions, cash for honours, all elements of a government and party that was knackered. And as a newspaper, I think we played quite a critical part in changing the public's attitude towards politicians. People began to feel increasingly hostile towards them. Whether you think that's a good or bad thing, I don't know, but it was a party that needed that doing to it. And funnily enough, editing a Sunday newspaper is tougher than doing a daily newspaper, because you've just got the stress of the week. You get 52 shots a year, and if you don't get it right, it hangs over you for days. With a daily newspaper, if you get it wrong, you kind of curse through the morning, and then by lunchtime, you're into the next day and you can try and put it right. And on the daily, we miss stuff. But we're not ashamed about, okay, we missed that story, we're going to get back into it, and we're going to do it better tomorrow than the others have done it today. That's all you can do, but you can recover very quickly. On a Sunday, you can't do that. It's a tough job, actually. It's a combination of factors. This is a very good newspaper company. It supports the papers. We're at a good price. We're cheaper than the Telegraph and the Guardian. We have very strong sections, I think. I inherited strong sections. We've been able to improve some of them. We've been moving through the newspaper steadily, trying to improve it. It was locked into a structure when I came where business was always in the center. We changed that, which meant we carried far more domestic news, home news, more foreign news, and in fact we've managed to expand our business content. So it's been a sort of, by just changing the structure of the paper, we've made improvements. from about 50 days out, which isn't far, we're going to really start blitzing it. And we understand not everybody wants to read about politics all the time, but I think it's very important for a paper like The Times to try and dominate election coverage as much as it can. And we'll do that in combination with pollsters like YouGov. We've launched a daily email called Redbox, which has been going about 6 months, with just political news. And we have superb columnists on The Times who cover politics. So I think if you put a combination of The Times and the Sunday Times together, which is how a lot of people see us, because we're a 7-day offering, it's a really very strong lineup for the election. They have great columnists too. You put the two together, I think The Times is in a really powerful pace to cover this. Certainly, we think we can grow further in Scotland. We're about to launch a daily Times in Ireland. At the moment, the Sunday Times is very strong in the Republic of Ireland. It sells about 90,000. We sell 2,000. We're going to launch a digital-only edition there on a daily basis, and I hope a lot of Irish will start subscribing to the Sunday Times and the Times. And once we've done that, we're going to go more international, aiming at markets like India and China for English speakers. We may well do a weekly edition of the Times and Sunday Times, the best of it. And at the same time, they can subscribe to the Daily Times for those people who are really interested in British politics or expats or whatever. So I think there's a huge scope for it. A key thing is to make it profitable to secure its future. So we're pretty comfortable. We can see growth and we can see profit, and that's about all you want, really. And because we have gone behind the paywall, we believe that's the right way ahead. Other papers are trying other routes. They may succeed, they may not. It's too early to tell. But we believe we've got for our sort of market, an established route ahead. So I don't think we want to change it with something like that. Part of the power of television and radio is considerably greater than that of newspapers. All the polls show that about 70 to 80% of people in this country get their news from the BBC. And I think when the BBC was established in the 1920s, it was deemed in successive years that if you had such a powerful medium, you should make it impartial. It was the politicians who decided that. The print media was already there. It existed, it was partial, and it would be almost impossible, I think, to turn the print media into an impartial medium, and we wouldn't want that anyway. And the belief is, you choose the paper you like that suits your views, and I think that's very healthy. Should the broadcast media become partial here? It's an interesting debate. No, I don't think so, but in America you can be. The danger is you lead to much greater politicization of the media and a greater divide in the country. I think gradually some papers will become behind a hard, firm paywall, and a couple will survive as essentially free newspapers on the internet. And they may be able to do that through advertising or by other forms of funding. I think The Guardian is very ambitious. It's got probably enough money to sustain this now. I think Alan Rusbridger sees a day where you may get simultaneous translation becoming automatic. So you could have The Guardian in Spanish and Hindi or whatever languages automatically appearing like that, which is an interesting ambition. And it might work, and we don't know, but what we like about a paywall is that it means we have to invest in journalism, we have to go for quality. And if you start cutting, people will stop subscribing. So it's a kind of endorsement of having lots of foreign correspondents and expensive columnists and all that kind of thing. It is, or was, seen as a paper of the establishment. I hope that is diminishing. I hear it sort of is, that people, the Times once ran this campaign, Peter might remember, I vaguely do, in the 60s or 70s, the top people's paper, which was a disastrous campaign because it suddenly said, we're exclusive, don't read us if you're not a top person. And sales plummeted. We would be very far from that, but we are read by an influential, I've discovered actually coming to the Times, we are read by a lot of opinion formers, probably more than any other newspaper. So there is that sense, but that's a strength, I think, that our columnists have real clout. People read them, they care about them, and they have reach, which is what a newspaper wants. Our average age is probably early 50s, but a lot of young people do read the Times. We're offering students a £20 a year digital subscription. We're thinking of actually putting more copies of the Times in universities and sixth forms, free, just to get people to look at it. But it is a problem. But I actually think a number of people in their 20s tell me they like reading print rather than digital. And it seems, and certainly true in books, there's a move against thinking it's all going to be digital. I don't know if that's your experience, but when I read a book on Kindle, I don't retain it, the memory of it, as well as I do when I read a physical book. And I think everybody's finding that. And there's a gradual move back to books in print. Well, I think the finest journalist of my generation, because he's done so many things and is such a superb writer and editor, is Max Hastings. He was in the Falklands War, where he creamed all of us. He was a very good editor of The Telegraph, and he is a superb historian. So I have huge admiration for him. Quality of writing, knowledge of the country, obviously, and of the region, fluency in the local language, and an ability to get under the skin of the country and convey that. Those are the key things.